Oh, my homies, I am so tired and feeling good, sure, but you gotta remember, we're doing these 12-hour night shifts, and it's deload week, and it's good because it's supposed to be humbling and it's supposed to be hard, but oh my god, the reps are good in the moment when I hit the peak and I don't want to do any more heavyweight for the moment, but I'm already thinking about doing that heavyweight again. But this is what we're here for. You know, the conditioning and the volume is meant to build us up so that we can get to that point at the safest and most efficient rate possible, you know? So by taking out all of the warm-up sets that I would do comparatively on the peak week, because peak week, I'll do like 10 warm-ups, you know, but just one rep each. This week, it's deload, so I'm only doing about 4 to 6 warm-up sets with the working set at the end, but everything has to be a set of 5, you know, and I'm telling you, if you're doing your deload right, your deload is honestly going to probably feel worse than your peak week, at least energy-wise, because it's just, your core gets obliterated so fast. And again, this is just coming from a guy who does no cardio, and the highest amount of reps he'll do is five reps. You know, it's just, I'm not built different in the, you know, the cardio CrossFit way, but in my experience, anytime you do a deload, when it comes to the mental hype, especially doing 5 reps every single set and then maintaining the exact same warm-ups every time, like today on squat, went to 375, so we have to still hit 365. There's no skipping warm-up weights on this program because I don't do working sets. I do the one top set. So the effort is still there. The conditioning will happen 100% as long as you put in that effort to get there, you know? What I really wanted to focus on with the clean and jerk accessory and the rest of the accessories this week is I don't want to be able to go over the heaviest clean and jerk weight I'm going to do this week on the strength day, because it'll be a 255 triple this week. So I don't want to do anything over a 255 accessory complex movement. That typically is way too easy because the complexes I do are 1 or 2 movements at the most. So if you need to put in that extra effort and make the lift harder, then you need to actually abide by that and make it more difficult, you know? There's always something more that you can add to your complex. People say that's a waste of time, but I really like being able to put in a bunch of effort and make it feel like I'm doing several reps within one actual full repetition, you know, so that I don't have to let go of the barbell, because the act of dropping the barbell and resetting your form and core back up is so damn difficult. It's abysmal. The way I explained it to people with resetting up the weight in Olympic lifting is, imagine if you have, let's say you're doing my 5 reps of squat today, but in between every single rep, you have to put the weight back on the rack, reset it back up, re-walk it back out, and then squat the next rep. But every single rep, you must put it back on the rack. That's what it feels like to drop the barbell all the way down and reset back up on an Olympic lift. And Olympic lifts are already so full body that my core and my low back are not going to be able to survive doing several reps like that on a complex day. So to make up for it, I pick certain complexes as well as more additions to the difficulty of the complexes that make it to where I cannot go over 255, because that's just how difficult the technique is and the core stability has to be. So today, it was a little wonky getting at the start because I wasn't too sure what I was getting into, and I haven't done this much complex movement in a while. But I ended up choosing a slow tempo above the knee, doing a back down full, which is just once I get the barbell above my knee, I go back down to the floor as close as possible without letting the weights touch the ground to keep my core locked in and engaged. And then I do a full clean, all the way squatted down. And then I did a push jerk, re-rack into a split jerk. And this, it's kind of random, but again, that's what the accessory days are meant to be. They're meant to be complex technical movements that I choose that really make me rack my technique and my core around the weights, because there's so little energy to work with by the end of the repetition, you know? And that conditioning and holding your CNS together and having good technique while being burnt out is what will transfer over so well when I have to do triples at my heaviest weight this week and my peak week weeks from now. This conditioning this week is harder than the conditioning I'll do any other week because of how technical it is and how much more volume there is compared to what I typically like to do. But that's how I earn the big weights. That's how I get stability in my form. The squats were actually great. I really want to, every time I do a deload week, I think it's very important not to force it. You really need to go at your own pace, your own speed. But I think it's good to be able to do your squats as fast as you're capable of doing without loosening your core, without letting your hips butt wink or loosen at the bottom of the squat, while having a good leg drive and a good, with your knees pressing outward, no rounded low back, no knees pushing in between. You don't want to butt wink because then all the stress goes to your low back and your spine. You still want to maintain the form as good as you've always done, but if you can do the squats fast throughout all of these warm-up sets, again, when you get to the next heaviest week and then the peak week after that, all the warm-ups at those weights when you're doing triples and then singles will be so easy. It's ridiculous. Like I told you guys on my peak week last week, the best day I had was when I went to my old high school and I did 455 as my top set. I went from barbell to 455 in 15 minutes and crushed 455 like it was nothing. Like it was ridiculous how strong I was, and that's because I maintained my core technique conditioning along the way. Because this is something that people don't understand a lot about, especially like making yourself squat a little bit faster, just finding a way to make the lifts difficult enough to get enough activation to where you don't have to worry about even going heavy and putting in the same amount of intensity. Is that when you lock in your core and technique that much, you inadvertently put so much more prioritization into your drive, into your main muscle groups that you typically don't get on the peak weeks. Because of course, when it comes to the energy being used, I'm using more core this week, and on my peak week, I'll be using a lot more main muscle group strength. But the difference is this week, my core is the one that's fully engaged, and so I have to lock my quads in just as hard, if not harder. Like I was burning through those last couple sets because when the core obliterates and you have nothing left to hold it up with, you have to make sure you maintain the stability in your main muscle groups along the way every time you go up in weight, no matter how tired you get. And by stabilizing those main muscle groups, when the core finally burns out and goes away on your deload week, when you progress the weight up in the following weeks, especially the peak week, every single weight should move like butter. There shouldn't be a single consequence because the core will be fully developed, fully conditioned, and every main muscle group will be so used to driving through weights without any core strength that when you go to the peak week and you can use 100% of your core without getting tired, you'll be able to double it back up with the main muscle groups without losing any control or consistency with your squat technique. It's very, very important that you maintain that intensity without overdoing what needs to still be a deload, And the funniest part about it is you're not even going to get to see 375. It's so fucking tragic. I use an iPhone 12 to record all my videos on the highest settings possible. I'm always turning my notifications off. I'm freeing as much storage as I can just to make sure the video doesn't pause or glitch or whatever. And this is like the fourth time in a couple months now that the video has cut off. Literally, it's funny as shit looking at it now. The moment I get my breath on the squat, video's gone. It's so funny. It's like it's fucking teasing me just to come back and do it better next time. And I'm pretty sure my phone went into low power mode, or at least tried to, right when I got set up. And if my phone is breathed on while it's recording, it just explodes. So you win some, you lose some. I'm not mad about it at all because I know the consistency was good and I know I put in my best. It's never going to be perfect on a deload, but you have to give it your absolute best to make that last rep look like the first, because that's what's going to make it to where doing singles every single rep not only is earned and worth it, but will be so, so confident you won't even believe what you're capable of by the end of the program. Like I said, this is where we set the base. The pyramid's got to grow from here, and it gets less and less stable every week, so the bigger of a base that we can give it, the more chance we will have to hit that peak week like nothing ever happened, Shoot, man. I mean, it's very, very important that you allow yourself the opportunity to push as hard as you can without relying on strength and relying on hype, you know? I'm between my 12-hour shifts. I'm tired of shit. I got stuff to do. My Eleiko barbell still isn't here. I don't know what happened, but we'll find out eventually, I suppose. But either way, I'm just sitting here tired as hell, like coming up with the most difficult lifts to do. And so many people will look at that and say, that's inefficient, you're going to get hurt, it's not worth going that hard when you're that tired. And I very, very much disagree. I think that if you because people think that I'm putting in this higher amount of effort and doing a really insane complex and a lot of volume is going to push me in a strength way, but it doesn't. It pushes me in a core way, in a technique way, you know, in a stability, in a joint, in a tendon way. All my contingency points are stressed in these lifts in a good way because I can't go heavy because of how difficult the lift is. I have to lock in my most sensitive areas that typically could be at risk for injury on a heavy week. So if I can prime them now, I won't have to worry about it later on, you know? And we already saw the other week when I came in and was like, oh, well, let's just make it easy. Let's come in and do a power clean lift at the end of my peak week, make it really simple. Simple does not always mean easy. Simple does not always mean that it's right. Simple is comfortable, but the power clean puts so much stress on my low back from how much I was stopping it abruptly that it ended up putting those big knots on my low back and I had to take extra rest days. If you allow yourself to do the full movement at a much more difficult technical rate, you'll have to lock in all of your most tired areas and lock in your CNS regardless of how you're feeling. And again, as long as you take it one weight at a time, you should be fine. Work around your discomfort, and if you feel pain, then stop. You know, I didn't have to go to 255 today. If 225 felt abysmal, I would have stopped. But it felt good, and it felt good enough to keep going, so I earned that weight, you know? And if I chose to do a very simple, you know, let's say if I just did a slow tempo into a split jerk, and that was it, I'd be much more at risk there because, one, there's more variability for me to stop thinking about the technique, and two, it allows me to think that I have more in me than I actually do in that moment, you know? It allows my strength brain to take over my technique brain. And you got to make sure you stay humble on the deloads, man. Especially when it comes to, locking out the technique. Because if you think, oh, this weight is simple, this movement is simple, this is easy compared to what I'm used to doing on my heavier days, let's just do it and not think about it. The days where you think you have it the most are the ones you are the most at risk to fuck it up. Every fucking time, man. Even though I squatted 455 last week, does not mean I am primed for 375 by 5. I hit it. I did good. I feel primed now because I earned that weight. But let me tell you, it was hard as shit. And people will normally look at that and be like, that's like 90 pounds lighter than your heaviest squat. How are you struggling to do that for 5? And on top of all of the accumulative factors that I put into my programming and my sets and my reps and how fast I'm going and how difficult I make it, your energy does not stay the same every week, man. You have to adhere to your fatigue. And that's just how it is. You are never going to be as peaked as you were yesterday, whether that's a good or a bad thing, or a stronger thing or a weaker thing. You have to accept your limitations in that moment and work around them so that when you come back in the next day, you can go as hard as you want per what you chose to do, what you chose to put yourself into. Because even though I'm tired now and I'm burnt out, nothing hurts. My mobility's great. My stability's great. All the technique was great. Did everything to the best of my ability. So tomorrow I will have the best chance possible to come in to do my snatch accessory lift with my bench press, you know, and especially because I'm not squatting tomorrow on the main power lifts, I'll be able to go a little bit harder on the Olympic lift when it comes to the technique without worrying so much about the aftermath of the second exercise. But one way or another, we made it, did the best I actually could, and just, you got to be proud of it no matter what happens. You know, the video don't matter. If I don't get the recording, who cares? I know I did good. I know I did what I deserved and earned in that moment. So I will build off of this, continue doing better, and feeling as good as I possibly can. Thanks for hearing me yap. Physically, I'm tired as shit. Let me tell you, I'm burnt out. but it still moved well. The technique was still good. There's just no core this week because it's a deload. It's a conditioning week. So, I mean, I'm going to give it a very solid 7.9. Not because it was a bad day. I typically have a lot higher numbers than that, but I'm just, you're not going to be as physically able on your deload week as your peak week, just because the priority isn't on being as physically hyped as I'd want to be. It's on keeping the technique and the stability true while I'm already burnt out. So I'm going to take it one way or another because I hit all my weights, feel good up one way or another walking out the door. Mentally, oh man. I'll give it a solid 8.35. I'm really just tired. I'm going to keep saying it. It sounds like I'm bitching, but sometimes you got to bitch. You rant in the moment, get a productive afterthought, move on, do good, sleep well, knowing that you put in the best you had in that moment. I'm not very excited to go to work tonight. I already got to go back in an hour, but I'm off the next 2. I'll get to relax a little bit. Can't be mad about that, I'm earning my keep, doing the best I can. I'm going to keep saying it. That's all you can do. So I'll be back tomorrow. Like I said, snatch accessory, normal bench press. Not sure what the numbers are looking like yet, but we're going to give it our best one way or another. I will see you tomorrow. Let me know how the lives and lifts have been going. Love hearing about it. And I love you guys. I'll see you later. Bye.